iRacing.
Welcome to the Hungaroring. Situated just northeast of Budapest, this Grand Prix circuit has racked up a stunning history in just a little more than 30 years of existence. Its biggest claim to fame was holding the first Formula One race inside the Iron Curtain at a time when the Cold War was at its peak. But most fans don't associate this 2.7-mile or 4.38-kilometer track with politics. No, its 14 turns make it tight and twisty with a reputation for few places to overtake. For a long time, it was renowned for processional races in which qualifying is of the utmost importance. But the past couple decades have seen a litany of utterly wild and unpredictable races that greatly overshadow the single-file events of before. The majority of passing takes place into Turn 1, while some battles do carry on into Turn 2. But be careful about how greedy you get, because the steep drop in elevation makes it easy to go wide. Other than that, Turn 12 is often the only other realistic place to sneak by your opponent. Perhaps the scariest and trickiest of the corners is 4, which presents a blind and crooked entry into a high-speed flick. Though modern times have seen a paved runoff added to it to make it safer, that's considered out of bounds, and drivers will find themselves being told to give back time if they abuse the exit. Built with fans in mind, the track sits in a natural bowl, allowing great views from most sides of the venue. It's easy to see why it's become a fan favorite on the F1 calendar, and there's little doubt it'll continue to see lots of racing for years to come.
A race today around a circuit that broke ground here behind the Iron Curtain as it was back when it started in 1987. But a circuit like the Hungaroring now is a case of a moderner classic out there in terms of racing circuits. It's Jake Sperry and Howie Burrows bringing you action here today. And Howie, when it comes to this track, it has hardly moved in terms of what's changed. The only difference is it's a longer run now to Turn 1 and a longer run to Turn 2.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. I don't know of a single era of Grand Prix racing where this wasn't considered Monaco without the walls. That middle sector, especially tight and technical, back and forth with barely a moment to breathe, especially in that brutal chicane into turns 6 and 7. Drivers on these cars may make their biggest overtaking attempts in the first sector on the first turn and down the hill out of 3, but with no downforce at all. This will race nothing like it's used to.
No, and when you've got nothing really to slow you down, you're going to be really trying to work here in Magyarod, which is nearer to Pest in Hungary than it is to Budapest, named as a city because it is actually two cities mashed into one. You've got the city of Buda and the city of Pest, which makes Budapest. So, as we come into today, they've got themselves the 4.38 kilometers, the 14 turns, and they know that it is early doors in the championship, which means there aren't really that many big, I would say, stumbling blocks to deal with at this moment. But for the Grand Prix legends, it's sit down and say, where can you find an all-important early phase to go? They know how difficult this circuit can be at the best of times. And Howie, as they set up here today, 19 laps worth of racing, no spare car to help them out. This is a sit down and really work for this. This will be 40 minutes of tough racing.
And with only 30 cars hitting the track, I think quite a few were scared of potentially hitting up this split. It's been two very technical tracks in a row on the schedule now, but you're at that stage where you can just start to bank your early points rather than worrying too much about your battles to those around you.
You certainly do need to, and we will be jumping down into qualifying shortly to see where everybody is and who is setting at the early pace. And it's Nicola Cocchi who has got that in the best position at the moment on a 1:46.6 as it stands. And in qualifying, they know that it is iRacing official here, Howie, and we understand it very well. 8 minutes to set a time, 2 laps to be allotted to put that time in on the board. Kevin Verbruggen currently second, and then Gary Ho in third position. So it's all about finding work and finding times out there and just getting that consistency level up. With just 2 laps, you're being asked to push hard. Mick Claridge, legend of this series, third fastest currently, quarter of a second back.
And keeping it on the track for the 2 laps is going to be a challenge as well. Any off track at all invalidates your laps. And this is a modern Formula One track very much with those asphalt runoffs. There's the tight chicane into 5 and 6 being run by Nicola Cocchi. And then the track slows down a lot, but it's designed for you to really tackle these corners with wings. And you can just see how much this car is being over-slowed into these corners. It looks almost farcical.
Well, they're really having to work through because they're only reliant on the mechanical grip that's generated a Lotus 49, which is a car that says, well, all you got to do is make sure that you add speed and lightness to go and be quicker. That is the Colin Chapman way, of course, over at Lotus and the home base at Hethel over in Norfolk. Not a million miles away, actually, from the Snetterton circuit, which would be their home circuit to go and work with. Cocchi, though, out of the final corner, 180 degrees of right bend to go and make this charge and over towards the line. How much of an improvement will this be? It looks like a 1:46.3 out there and goes, in fact, a 1:46.2 and goes 4 tenths clear at the top, sending an absolute message down the field to drivers like car number 1, Jorge Nieva, highest iRating in the field today.
This is going to be such a track position race as well. There's going to be chances to pass in those first few corners with some bravery, of course, but you really, really, really want to start out front. I wouldn't want to be fighting for the middle or the back if I was competing for a win. And it's going to get very, very tight with 30 cars trying to fly through these corners.
Yeah, you got the likes of Condellis and Morse, 4th and 5th. Jem Matsan having a really good qualifying in 6th position. Something's clicked for Jem out there as you've got Nieva now rushing about down to 10th position only. 1.3 seconds off the pace. The likes of John Olsen, for example. And now we're seeing more drivers improve. Ruiz moving up then into 4th position in the number 11 car. And Nieva, who is now in position number 11, gets a big snap coming out of the final corner, really having to push. 1:46.3 for him. It's good enough for the front row, but short by 0.5 tenth of a second. With a minute left, drivers like Hervé Trengarade, for example, are desperate to put a lap down in on the board.
That could have been the pole lap without that bad snap out the final corner, although the front row is still one of the nicest places to be sitting. It's Hervé Trengarade. I'm going to get a few names along the way, I'm sure of it. In our 6th car, one of our last drivers to set a lap didn't get a clean one the first time around. So everything matters on this run of only 40 seconds to the line.
Yeah, because it's a very close cutoff, and look at Henry Maurice going second, stealing the front row away from Jorge Nieva. Maurice with a wonderful lap time there to put himself up on the front row. Verbruggen in fourth, Claridge is fifth. It is, of course, Ruiz who is in sixth position, so Ricardo Ruiz can't do much more. Candelis currently seventh, but Hervé Trengarade, who is a Legends car specialist out there in anything that he sets his mind to, 10 seconds to go. This is going to be really tight heading towards the line, and he really pushes. Does he push too far out over towards it? 2:18 it will be called, so I doubt that would be a representative lap time there from that effort. So let's get ourselves a look at how the grid is going to stack here today. This is where you've got to try and make this all known. And as we took a look at qualifying at the front, it would be ultimately a case of Nicola Cocchi on the pole position. Henry Maurice is alongside for company with Jorge Nieva and Kevin Verbruggen on row 2. Mick Claridge will have Ricardo Ruiz for company 5th and 6th, with Arturas Candelis in 7th, and Jem Matzan with a great qualifying will go from 8th. It's the Aussie Benjamin Shoko who goes in 9th. Gary Ho will round out your top 10.
30 cars make up today's grid across 3 pages. Benjamin Kopke sits in 11th next to Rolly Wildbank. Gary Quellen in 13th next to John Olsen on row 7. On row 8, Robert Plumley and Cam Porter. John Geralda in 17th next to Aku Liski. And Santiago Frega is ahead of Mats Linden. I believe that last lap we were watching from Ove was not legal. You're going to catch that on the last page.
Yeah, and so then you've got Tobias Hanvey and the last car to set a time, which is the aptly named Zen car in 22nd position. 8 drivers failed to set a time. Hervé Trengarade, the first of those. They're all split by iRacing. Jason and Kurt Clapper, Ben Summers, Thomas Willershausen, Seb Clapper, Roberto Prangrazzi, and Hans-Jörg Lugenbuhl will be the last driver down there in position number 30. So we got 3 drivers part of Team Clapper here today. It's nice to see Seb out there making a challenge here today from Club United States. So this is going to be where big challenges are going to be had, and drivers are now all hoping they can make some work out there. Drivers' flags are interesting as well. A couple drivers like John Olsen, Rolly Wallbank are looking to represent Sao Tome and Principe, which is going to be interesting. But the green flag drops on 19 laps worth of racing, and what a shocking start from Henry Maurice. Grabbed a massive amount of wheel spin. One car almost in the wall there, and that looks like that's Hervé Trengarade in the back who had to take avoiding action. Downing towards turn number 1 for the first time. Everybody fanning in about 3 wide, and hold your nerve through the middle. Mick Claridge in 4th, Verbruggen 3rd, Nieva 2nd, but Nicola Cocchi with a very good start leads this race. 3 wide, it might fan out here into turn 2, which is off camber as you dive through. Claridge down on that inside, hoping to pick the pass up and now get into P3.
One of the benefits of cars of these sizes, you can send it 2 or 3 wide, but the last straight here is going to be a big chance to get some passes going up the hill. Most of the time, keep the 3 wides. I almost saw a draft out from Henry Maurice near the back, but he might be able to commit to that inside line as he comes up the hill, forces Ricardo Ruiz back, and in fact, he could lose out another one on the inside line into the chicane as there's a spin up ahead.
There's Kevin Verbruggen who's gone around going into that chicane of 7 and 8. I think he's just overcooked it, and he's tried his best to keep it out of the rear of Mick Claridge, locking up both rears. He's now behind Rolly Wallbank out there, so he's got a lot of work to do to charge on back through the pack and say, this is what I am capable of doing to run on through in this field. So he's got to get past the Sao Tome and Principe coloured car that is there in front and prove what is there. Slow Benjamin Shoko as well is going to be a little troublesome coming out of one corner, and now look at how he tries and deals with all of this, because that's going to be the likes of Robert Plumley and then John Olsen trying to go and make their moves here on the opening laps. Out of 13 in towards turn 14 then to end the lap out. You can take that wide line to attack off the exit, and look at how it brings itself together, and just in front of that, Jem Matzan and Gary Quellen having a battle too. Brilliant duels along the straight towards turn 1 again.
And Nicola Cocchi must have been in love with everything that happened behind them, because 7 tenths off the line and running away with it. Not by far the fastest lap, in fact the only 51 on the field so far. And with this big gap and other drivers slowing each other back behind on a track that's very hard to get around others on, this is a very, very easy getaway. I noticed a big separation behind the 5th place car, Henry Morse.
Warbank has to lift off then with Cam Porter there, trying to go through. Side by side behind, Akuliski is trying to get through on Santiago Fraga for position, and Fraga slides up then at turn 4. And look at that, drivers taking a huge avoiding action at turn 4, like Seb Clapper, for example, trying to stay out of trouble. There's Jason Clapper now, trying to bring himself into play, and he gets a good run and moves on through and gains the place. There's contact in front, there's John Garalda. Oh, a hefty accident, up and upside down. Thank goodness it's sim racing only there, because that's a headache and a half.
John Garalda ran into the side there, but there's almost no space to run if you don't quite see that one coming on a car that isn't going to slow down very hard. That has broken up this back entirely, and it has sent some cars to the pit. Santiago Fraga meatball, John Garalda meatball, Jason Clapper meatball. No chance for them to return.
It was Jason Clapper upside down as he went through, and Santiago Fraga is trying to limp on back to the pits. There are no fast repairs in this series, just hoping that it's not going to be too long to try and fix the suspension out there at this stage. So dramatic, to say the least, for the Argentine to start working here, and Rolly Warbank here is really trying to make some progress. Cocky with the fastest lap of the race, Jorge Nieva in 2nd, Mick Claridge leading the group of Condellis and Morse in 4th and 5th position, with Gary Ho in 6th. So this pack now forming all the way back to Cam Porter here in 16th position, goes all the way up, I would argue, to Jem Matzan, who's in 7th place in the number 22 car from the United States.
Got a very wide split of drivers in this 3K SOF lobby, and Matzan in that 22 car is punching well above his weight in a challenging field. But on such a track position dependent race, you keep this together for the whole length and you could be coming out with some spectacular gains in your iRacing along the way. It's going to be single file for quite some time, although I saw Ricardo Maurice try to stick his nose out a little bit further up ahead. This battle's just as close between some of the other drivers. It's like John Olsen did just sneak past Benjamin Kopke around the outside going into the chicane, and we're going to see some drivers sort of sneaking each other around, especially in that first sector.
Yeah, Benjamin Kupka then having a lot of troubles going through the open through turn 4, ran wide, and because of that compromised the line at 5 as well up the hill, and that really cost some time. There is Ricardo Ruiz on board with him right now. Matzan struggling a little bit through the corner, and you can see there the work that's being done. Up over the nose goes the likes of Ricardo Ruiz. He finds the tyres, just about avoids them, and now will drop way down the order after a moment like that. Not enough damage to cause that mechanical flag to be shown, but Ricardo Ruiz will be very upset around that sort of incident there, because Matzan was fighting with everything to make that position, and after the mistake going through, he got very, very defensive.
I'm keeping an eye on the replay of that one on my end, and I'm just seeing Ruiz very much sends it up the inside, but really doesn't quite have the space on the mid-corner and the exit to execute that. Gets squeezed onto the inside, and that's going to send that attacking opportunity down and out. He does just about dodge the wall. I think that car is going to be okay, but count him well out of that battle. We're looking at the battle for P3 right now. Mick Claridge having to hold off Andres Colendez, and he's done a pretty good job of it so far, and these cars can produce a little bit of slipstream on each other into these first few large straights. I don't see the gap closing up right now, and some might want to be scared of the level of ambition we just saw.
Well, at the moment, they're doing 146s and 147s in this group that leads at the moment as we go on to lap 4, really fighting through down to just 105 kilometers an hour through some of these corners. It makes it seem very pedestrian, as there is the recovering Kevin Verbruchen, then through on Benjamin Kupka, through on Benjamin Shoko. So the two Benjamins just behind were having a nice fight, and then Robert Plumley, World of Kinducci, trying to find his way through through along with Rolly Wallbank. So every place you're trying to jump up the order. One more here, one more there. And this is the sort of track that, yes, it's Monaco without the walls, some would say, but you really do have to work through every corner, because you make a mistake in these cars, it's not a 1/10 mistake, it's a 3 or 4/10 mistake, as just indicated there by Kupka. Running a bit wide, it now forces side by side with Robert Plumley, who'll have to go around the outside of 14 to get it done on the run for one.
Kupka almost certainly losing, going off the track in the chicane earlier on, and that could have forced a slowdown penalty. Now down our start-finish straight. The straights don't really get very long here, even though this straight was lengthened since the original incarnation, and as a result, we're not seeing too many bold dives, but we're seeing two wides for 2 rows. It's Plumley and Kupka in 12 and 13, and then Tangerid and Ruiz in 15 and 16. Ruiz was able to keep his car together in one piece, and that's a slip wide from Kupka, and that's going to be a lot of those positions dropped back again.
Yeah, wise driving here by Tangerid, who almost runs into the back of a slow Kupka there, coming through turn 3 and just trying to play a preservative race here as Hervé Tangerid. He manages the pass, but he's really over-driving here as Kupka at the moment, and it is starting to hurt as far as this race goes. So you're always trying to switch on to where you can find the ability to run away, where you have this chance to not run into any dramas, and at the moment, the mid-pack being very busy of that, and Kupka is now down to 16th. Candelis still watching in 4th, but I don't think he's going to want to make a move here on lap 5, because he very much would quite like Mick Clarish to do all the donkey work and keep themselves within range of Jorge Nieva. When that gap goes up to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, I think that's gloves off for Candelis, and he might attack, or he might just get a run here out of 13 to try and attack for the final corner of turn 14. You have a big line cutting the exit perfectly to now get this launch along the front stretch, really forcing car control.
He's closer now than he was a couple laps back. There are small gains to be made, but obviously the hardest part is getting that pass done for good. Tried to dip up the inside in that last corner and just wasn't quite given the room for it. But I think he is just going to kind of sit in wing. Maybe if the two work together here and there's a battle for the win near the end, when the pressure boils up to the top, that could produce a bit of an explosive ending, but you're not going to throw it away quite at this stage. You're trying to keep control of your car first, quite frankly.
A look back at the most famous engine in motorsports, the Ford DFV Cosworth, then for Mick Claridge, who runs through the corner and is keeping himself quite nicely set at the moment. Wallbank in a big scrap at the moment with Ruiz and Tangerid, and look at that in the top right of your screen. They almost think about 3 wide. Down the inside goes Ricardo Ruiz here, in towards turn 4. Wallbank runs wide, and suddenly Tangerid's there, and Kupka, and he gets close, and you got to worry the longer this race goes, because those brakes do fade in these cars.
And Ruiz might feel like he's got places to be after his mistake, or more like his incident earlier on in the race. He's been punching himself back up places on the track, but it's clear that if anything, he's a fast and aggressive driver who's willing to get himself past people. Bit of a poor exit out of the chicane, though. Wildbank might try and take advantage if he can stay within touch into these last few brave corners. Very, very close on the rear. We're on board with Kupka now, who gets a bit of a front row seat to all of this, and I was wondering if Ove there was going to jump for the inside. Instead, a bit of a check-up in line, and then Kupka has to back out and lose a lot of time.
Yeah, he was very scared about making contact there, and Hervé Tangerid he's got away with. Shoko, by the way, in that next group as Nieva sets the fastest lap, has got his eyes on Gary Quellin. Kevin Verbruchen through on Quellin, and now he'll be the next one in the line who might be thinking about, I might be losing a place here, I might be losing a place there. I don't want to be caught up in anything wrong out there in a race like this. They fan out along the brakes into the opening corner. Quellin covering off Benjamin Shoko's charge and attempt. 6 places gained so far for John Olsen, having a wonderful run of things at the moment. And as far as it goes, biggest mover inside your top 10, biggest movers in the field right now are the combination of Hervé Tangerid and Seb Clapper right now. Verbruchen looking to pick the run out of turn 3 up the hill. Will have to go the long way around the Sao Tome and Principe car of John Olsen, and not quite managing the move.
For Bruggen, our two-car in the lobby was places to be, but around the outside of that bend only really works on a car that has the wings to stick it to the track, I'm afraid. Now, trying to get a wheel in alongside into the chicane. Very almost an incident, but fantastic car control to stay alongside and, in fact, have a much, much better exit. That's going to be clear on exit. Now, 3 seconds down the road to make up for P7.
That's critical as a pass there because he played so well with John Olsen taking that natural one-line suits all chicane. And by the way, he was able to back out of the car and make sure that he had that chance to attack off the exit. It was wonderfully constructed. Shoko again having a little search down in towards that section of road. That was changed as well as part of the 2003 updates. It used to be a much quicker run down into this corner. It wasn't 180 degrees, it was only 120 there. And Nieva has really closed that gap down now. 0.3 of a second. Your top two are clear by 2 seconds at the front, and Shoko here just on the cusps of a top 10 at the moment continues his search against Gary Quellin.
I've been looking at some of the timings on the grid.
Well, Trengade's out.
Oh, where did that one quite happen? Over Trengarade, yes, wiped out of the race with a meatball flag. That's some got to be some damage that will take him out. I'm keeping an eye on it on my screen. Replay. I mean, yeah, is that just a hardware failure going into the turn? Might be. I don't think I saw the wheel react, and that's one quick way to end your race. I've been looking at some of the gaps up ahead as we watch this battle for 20 seconds, just noticing that Nieva is within pretty good range of Kochi, and I think by the end of the race there'll be a battle for the win. For now, though, Zen car back here in 22nd. There's a lot of scrapping down here on the field. This is a pack led by Ben Summers, Matt Linden behind, and Thomas Willershausen for the last position. There's good battling all over the field, whether or not you're first or last here today.
Yeah, anywhere you look, there is great battling. Anywhere you look, there is opportunity. And Mats Linden right now in the middle of it. Nieva looking close here at the front of this field and wanting a way through. We're almost at halfway in this one, and he pulls that gap at 0.3 of a second and now needs a good run out to the final corner. Grabs a little bit of oversteer. Big diamond line by Nicola Cocchi here. The Italian very much looking against the Spaniard right now, and saying, what do I need to do to really charge and make this pass? What do I need to see in order to get close enough to make this overtake? And I think buying time is the key. Nicola Cocchi driving brilliantly here from the front, but Nieva has been the eternal bridesmaid of this series and knows all too well how to get close. But will there be enough this time for a driver who's driven all the way since the Grand Prix Legends days of sim racing to go and say, I can go to the top and I can make my #1 reality here today?
If you're gonna pick a track to start winning for the first time from second, I must say Hungaroring is a scary place to do it. But if you pull it off, it's a brave place to do it as well. I'm seeing a lot of patience in this car right now. There's 18 minutes of racing to go, and these cars will just punish you for a small error. So you'll hang in there for now to stay within those 3 to 5 temps, but maybe pressure will throw that leader off their game by the very end of that. It's going to matter, I think, when the white flag flies. We won't see something made up quite until that point.
We'll see some very interesting racing as Henry Morse happily sits then in 5th position and keeps himself close to Arturus Kundelis, and Mick Claridge, who is there in 3rd position. Having a quiet race at the moment is Henry, trying to prove everything that he can to stay close. It's worth noting that Nieva has had wins in this in this series, but has been a bridesmaid championship-wise, second on so many occasions, but never quite getting it over the line. But for the moment here, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Henry Morse is in a really tough position actually here, Howie. He's stuck on the back of 2 drivers who are very quick and are keeping themselves very honest at the moment as far as this race goes. So the way that Morse can try and get this pass done, I think he might just have to wait for a mistake because he can't find a straight line advantage anywhere. And that mechanical grip, he's just waiting for a chance. Look at those tyres, those massively chunky tyres that work in all weather conditions.
Well, the drivers here, they very much pride themselves on racing like gentlemen in this SOF series, and drivers are not going to make dumb moves that would get someone killed in the real world. In these cars, they do like to have a little bit of patience and a little bit of respect but also it's very hard to trim more top speed into these things, even with the open setups, of course. Very little available to you, and a track that only really lets you get it on one exit. That was Gary Quellen with a tricky lockup. I think he just about keeps that P11 over Benjamin Sosko, who has a good exit running down this straight. In fact, he has some pretty good speed, but just not enough to put him side by side on the outside.
Yeah, Shoko there was sitting back saying, what more can I do? Sees the lockup there of Gary Quellen, which went completely straight at that point. All turning just completely went away. Robert Plumley and Rolly Wallbank watched and could only do that, watch at what was going on then to try and find that as they sit on 9.5 laps of racing to go. In fact, quite a bit less. And in fact, in front of them, I do want to point out that Jem Matzan has been caught in the number 22 car by Kevin Verbruggen, as there's a look from Shoko trying to get it done at turn number 11. What a great pass that is by Benjamin Shoko.
Every pass we're seeing here, it's sort of taking advantage of either mistakes or a little bit of intimidation. That was quite a fast entry, and it just forced a back out on the other end. You just don't want to be on the other side of that. This train back here is very, very scarily close, though. 3 cars, more like 4 cars, nose to tail entering this start-finish straight. A bit of a snap there on exit. We're looking further up now to Kevin Verbruggen, who's holding off Jem Matzan, who's had a remarkable race sticking up into this position. We're approaching the back half of it now. Matzan still 3 seconds further down the road from John Olsen, and I think with this body language, pretty content with this position unless there's a big mistake.
Well, has just lost the place to Kevin Verbruggen out the final corner. No drive. Started 8th, is 8th. So this is a very nice conservative drive. Mick Claridge still having to hold against Artura, still having to hold against Henry Morse. I think he hasn't been challenged down the inside at any of these corners, but Mick Claridge, who represents Tuvalu here today, as he runs through turn 10 and in towards turn 11, this fast right-hander right now down to just 125 kilometers an hour for putting on the power, over 220 before hitting the brakes into the right. And it's not just the fact that you got all this power and you don't know where to put it, it's just how long the braking zones are in these Lotus 49s. And just imagine trying to get a Formula car stopped and almost 3 times the stopping distance is needed.
And you sort of don't get to send them into these corners. This track was designed for an era where we had wings on the cars and you could attack and you could take them quite quickly. But you're seeing the cars on the onboard. We saw them in qualifying. They just sort of have to like tiptoe around the apex of corners, just hoping for dear life that the thing grips. And at low speed, these things will handle fairly well, but they have to tackle the track so much slower than you'd expect them to, just because there's nothing else that's going to stick on there. Those tires may be chunky, but they're the only vestige of grip you have to the track, and it's a very, very different character to bring to a track like this.
Yeah, this is a car that has a lot of character and effectively pronounces itself as a unicorn of cars out there compared to others on the service. And it really is a true test of your driving skill if you can wrangle one of these together. And that's why we've seen drivers in the past like Hungarian Tamás Simone, Pro Stripe in iRacing circles now for Sesha Esports, really show what he's capable of doing around with cars like these. And that's why we see so many great drivers, the likes of Aldris Valenterius has been in here for time on time. Toga Hesada, another that has gone through, and you really get a sense that this is a style of car that does force the best drivers out of it to go and get that success. Claridge continuing his hold. He's got one of the longest ever streaks of victories in a row. I think he's got an 11 race win streak in his past in this series. Oh, Candelas has gone too deep. He's gone straight into the back of Mick Claridge, and Candelas with a hefty hit. And what a gift right now for Henry Morse, who moves up into 3rd position and almost gets taken out by Mick Claridge, who overcooks it into the next corner.
Candelas tried to get out of the way under braking, and that car's not going to move quickly enough to make that happen. Looks as if the damage is a bit less bad than it first looked on the first shot. That front has miraculously repaired itself, but running P5 now, that's time lost, and that's the podium opened up wide.
Henry Morse now into third position and goes from attacking to defending. There's the contact as they went through about 3 separate pieces of contact there for Arturas Kundelis there, the Lithuanian, finding out just how tough it was to make it through the corner. Claridge somehow has kept in range here of Henry Morse without too much damage. And I tell you what, the way that Henry Morse sits, he won't be remorseful for what's gone on. Side by side goes Ricardo Ruiz, who's always in a battle somewhere. This is Gary Quellin that he's trying to get back around, and as he gets the run out of one, he'll defend the line here at turn 2 on the inside. Look at Gary throw that back straight down the inside, not going to get the drive through the middle of the corner though.
7 to go. The intensity is about approaching its absolute maximum. We've seen Ruiz on screen a lot of today. He's been giving us some exciting races, and further back, Plumley and Wildbank going side by side throughout this whole first sector, still holding it to the inside, and I think on exit that's going to be just a little bit faster. Will they try and do the same into the chicane, because it's still not completely clear? That's now a back off from the car behind, and finally they get back into line. We've seen a little bit of too wide in the chicane, but you have to have a lot of trust. As Plumley, a big slide on exit. He just about keeps it together, but that's opened the battle right up again.
Yeah, and straight back through. The perks of being a wall bank to go and make that move straight back again. Holding now into 13th position. It's lucky for some, but Robert Plumley's got a great run coming out of 11. Will now use it to try and go down the inside here of turn 12, and he gets a fantastic run off the exit because Wallbank had to open up the gap to go through and hold that place. So Plumley will now attack off the exit, but can't get drive, and just about held there by Wallbank. So you're really having to work for each and every position. Quellin's not giving up on Ricardo Ruiz, and then you got Benjamin Shoko, who's got his eyes set on John Olsen, and this is what's happened to Seb Clapper here in the US colours. Oh, and that is a case of a Skyblazer, which will be trying to go round and round in a spin, and very nearly Skywood.
Just losing it right at the end, and that's a run into the pit lane. That's the mandatory repairs, and that's not going to be enough time to clear that up. Still, this battle for the podium on. Henry Morse and Mick Claridge. Haven't seen too much movement either way, but we're really running out of laps now. 10 minutes of racing on this track, and he's just tucked in behind, looking for that opening, looking for that window. Nieva hasn't really made up the ground he'd want to get that win, as I just noticed a black flag come out for Rowley Wellbank. We were watching that battle earlier. I wonder if incident limits were just hit.
I think they have been here for Rowley, and that is a drive-through penalty into the pit. So Rowley on a no-stop race, as all races are in this championship, will now have to come into the pit, and he will drop way back in the order, picking up too many taps and too many off-tracks around this circuit. You don't want to be running into those troubles. Nieva now with 5 laps to go, 0.6 of a second behind, has not been in any position to attack Nicola for place, and now Robert Plumley's got to be very, very choice here. I'm not sure he knows that he's got a black flag incident in front, so he's going to be trying to battle, but Rowley here wisely rolls out of the corner, allows Robert Plumley to take that space, because he'll dive down right and into the pits with instant points.
The off-tracks here are brutal. Take it from someone who's attracted to them like a magnet. It's just very, very easy to go a little bit wide. The limits are fair, but the track is challenging, and it's very easy to wash wide just a few too many times. You don't really see him stack up, and then suddenly you're heading through the pits at the end of a long race, and it feels like it's wasted for you. 2 battles of about equal distance near the front of this pack, although Nieva is going to need to put in a lot to make up that place. We're still on board with Mick Claridge here, who's staring down the rear of Henry Morse, has been for quite some time, but has been keeping it closer and keeping him more honest.
Well, this is a case of watch and wait from an experienced driver like Mick Claridge. He will look at Henry Morse with the number 7 against his name, the 7th highest iRating in the field, and go, yeah, you're good, but I'm sure I can find a way to take that podium. It's going to be a very tough fought battle between these two. And Mick Claridge, I think, as well, will be looking around and hoping that he doesn't have too much damage on the rear of the car, which will be unsettling him slightly after the contact with Arturus Candelis. It looks all right at the moment, which is a minor miracle because these cars were held together with the 1960s equivalent of flex tape to try and make sure that they'd make all of the finishes. But ultimately, at the moment, it's a case of look out. Mick Claridge is trying to figure out what he wants to do to get that last spot on the podium.
We've seen a few rave dives even, and most of them haven't ended terribly well, and a couple have been miraculous. That time just lost there on the exit of turn 1. Quite a lot of time might eat up that opportunity, but we've only got about 4 to go on this race, so time's quickly running out to make you a shot, and you're going to need to piece together a perfect lap around here, one that I've not quite seen yet. Looks like another black flag for Benjamin Kupka as well, probably the same. Kurt Clapper here in the 18th car, just 2 cars back on the closest battle on the grid, trying to get around that 28.
Yeah, so Kurt Clapper, who starts at the back, trying to get by Tobias Hernvey for position, will lunge down the inside, won't know that Kupka's got a penalty, but not surprising the way that Kupka was driving aggressively in the early stages, gets the run out of the exit. Hernvey's got nothing. Kurt Clapper has got the move, but here comes a little think back down the inside at turn 2. Again, having to yield that one, being stuck on what is a heftily off-camber corner, which means you are racing to the outside line. Everything funnels off to the exit of turn number 2 to go and make that move happen. So that's a hold for Kurt Clapper. We'll be happy about that. John Olsen has been getting his elbows out this race, up 5 spots, and Benjamin Shoko wants that 9th place.
And just behind him, another black flag. It's Ricardo Ruiz. They're stacking up, and there might be 1 or 2 more before the end of this race. So he'll try and get well out of this battle. He's got Gary Quellen behind. Shoko trying to get through John Olsen. These two have been in a battle that's just as close throughout the length of this. And we're really running out of laps now. It'll be 2 to go on the line, I believe. No, it will be 3 to go because the leader has crossed the line. But we're really running out of time. And you're going to need to get some legendary exits to piece this together. We're seeing a lot of people just trying to maintain and manage their race. Maybe some realize they're close to this incident count too.
Any unserved drive-through penalties will be a 40-second time bonus added on at the end of the race. So those drivers who keep themselves focused will now be looking at where they can go. Nieva, who's been quietly working here, pulls himself to the back of the Martini car in front of Nicola Cocchi, and now figuring out who is going to take this victory out of the pair of them. They've built themselves 6 seconds to go and play with. Nieva having to work with counter steer through the middle of turn 9, through 10, into turn 11 now, and hoping that there is going to be chances to make those moves. With 2 laps to go, you leave yourself a great chance to make it happen. I think that is where Nieva's trying to go. Get the move with 2 left.
Closer than he has ever been, and you can immediately just see the body language of that car. It's far more aggressive than we've been seeing in the last few laps. I think that it's time to turn the heat up, and Jorge Nueve knows that as well. And it's happening just behind as well. Henry Morse and Mick Claridge playing the same game with each other. Here's the run down the start-finish. Quite a poor wide exit from Jorge there. It's going to slow him down a bit. He gains, obviously, a little slipstreaming down this straight. Only a tad. These few corners are going to determine the run he's going to get.
I'm loving the way that Nicola Cocchi is taking turn number 1 right now. He's sliding in through the middle of the corner as he brakes, and it's so tough to trail brake that naturally through the corners. I think Nieva's struggling a little more to make that happen, and as such, you're looking at the way these corners are opening up here. Nieva is going to have to do something a little bit different, climbing the hill up to turn 4, getting right to the rear gearbox then, trying to figure out where can I go to make this move. Turn 5, slide mistake there for Nicola Cocchi. Door opens up. Here comes Nieva, straight down the inside. Cocchi is going to try and hold around the outside. They leave each other just enough room, but it's Nieva who's got drive off the exit. Still there's a chance to throw the nose down over at turn 8, and then at turn 9, it's tough around the outside here, and surely Cocchi's got to yield, and he does.
Big concession there from Cocchi on the exit. I was worried he was going to run over the lines on the chicane. I don't think he ran him over enough for a slowdown, but when you're on the outside of that bend, you very quickly have to realize there's very little keeping your car in it unless you slow it down. Leading every lap of this race, Cocchi now on the back foot, and if he's going to make this work, he has one lap to get the switch back and do it one last time.
Well, he needs one mistake out of a driver who has played his time perfectly. It's been counting and counting. Very shallow line through the corner. That's going to give no drive off the exit on the prime place to get it done. Cocchi dropping back a car length then along the main straight. One lap to go at the Hungaroring, and these two are at it. Aggressive underbraking through the opening corner. Big wide line taken by Jorge Nieva, who's only led one lap so far in this race, and he only needs to lead one more to win it overall. Down the hill in towards turn number 2, and Nicola Cocchi can only watch and figure out, is there any place where I can attack? Turn 4 is one of them. Turn 6 is going to be the only other place until you get down to turn 12. Out on track, heavy over the curves, and Cocchi understeering through the corner now opens up the gap by another 1/10 of a second. Some overdriving by the Italian, the desperation starting to show in the wheelwork, and Nieva, cool as you like, is going to start running through each and every corner, thinking what he can do to make it happen. Maurice will be comfortable in 3rd. Mick Claridge has fallen behind Condellis. He's now in 5th position on the final laps of this race. But through now, you work through these lefts and rights to turn 10 out on track, and 11, this one the right. Nieva has pulled out 4 car lengths and 4 fantastic reasons why he can hold. Through turn 12, there's just 2 corners to hold on to left, and on what has been a truly measured drive, a truly wonderful drive to try and hold. Nicola Cocchi has done all the legwork here today, but out of turn 14, we are going to see it is Jorge's time as he runs through the final corner. Nieva wins at the Hungaroring.
It was going to take a measured race, and doing it one time on the one lap it matters is about as measured and patient as it can get. That must have been tough, and it must have been scary. Got to be heartbreaking for Cocchi behind, but for Nieva, has been waiting for a finish like that for a good while, and what a way to bring it over the line here.
Mick Claridge being gifted 4th place as Arturas Condellis slow to let him go as an apology for what happened earlier on in the race. Benjamin Shoko trying to scrap with John Olsen. He's going to lose out 10th only. It's going to be in that regard. The next battle is going to be with Ricardo Ruiz, who has had his penalty served. He'll try and get by Cam Porter. Tobias Harmvey is also looking around for a place, and I think he's going to be a bit short too. So I think there's going to be some holds to the line. Ricardo Ruiz is going to only manage the not very sweet 15th position, a loss of 9 over the course of racing action. And here is Zen Carr trying to get this pass through on Ben Summers.
I don't think that one's quite going to make its way out. There have been good battles even at the back of this pack, though. Every position is worth something in these races, and even making it to the end has gotten some finishes over some very storied drivers on the pack. That'll be a finish in 22nd for Zencar, and Thomas Willishausen in 23rd, the last car on the road today.
Let's get then the official classified results then up on your screen from Racing Action here today at the Hungaroring, and it was a very good race for Jorge Nieva. Exactly what the doctor ordered. 33 minutes and 51 seconds worth of racing, a margin of victory 7/10 of a second, getting the move done with a lap and a half to go. Henry Maurice would guarantee himself a podium after Claridge and Condellis decided their race was with each other. Claridge being gifted shifted fourth against Candelis on the final lap. Gary Ho would have a very quiet but very strong sixth place, with the recovering Kevin Verbruchen into seventh after his spin on lap one. Jem Matzan would take eighth place, but not without drama of his own. John Olsen would finish off in ninth ahead of Benjamin Shoko, who would round out your top 10.
From 11 to 20, Gary Quellen finishes 11th ahead of Robert Plumley in 12th. For Aku Liski sits 13th ahead of Cam Porter. Ricardo Ruiz finishes 15th after that drive-through penalty. Kurt Clapper finishes 16th. Rowley Wildbank finishes 17th. Tobias Henry. I'm the one who's been butchering names all day. It's what I do. Onby, I've been told behind the scenes, in 18th. Mats Linden finishes 19th and Benjamin Koepke in 20th.
Ben Summers, probably one of the most difficult names here to pronounce the entire field, is 21st position, a gain of 5, with Zen Carr just behind him in 22nd. Then it's Thomas Willershausen, who's the last car on the lead lap and the last finisher, with Seb Clapper classified as 6 laps down, Hervé Trengereid. Hans-Jörg Luginbull then not finding any luck. Neither did Santiago Frege, Jason Clapper or John Geralda, who all three of them, came together on lap 2, and an on-start for Roberto Pangrazzi, then, who will be declared as 30th position, having not taken a single lap around the track here today. So that runs out the field, but we're going to have a chance to talk to some of our drivers. First and foremost, we have to go to the race winner overall, Jorge Nieva, who's stood by with me right now. And Jorge, what a fantastically measured drive from you. It never looked like you were fretting or worried at any point during that race. With 2 laps to go, you saw the opportunity at turn 5 and said, right, I'm going for it.
That was really, really lucky. I was near him, the only mistake he did, so I was really lucky. I think Nicola had a really gorgeous speed in turn 3. It was impossible to follow him, and the only time he made a mistake, I had done a turn 3 pretty okay, so I was near him, so I needed to try.
Well, you got yourself the chance, you made the opportunity happen, but a lot of it was down to how you worked in the early stages of that race. It looked like it was all down to pace play on the early starts, because it was only you and Nicola who were able to walk away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, Nicola was really fast at this track. It was really, really hard to follow him. I was giving my 100%. I was really lucky today. All the race, I think.
So it's going to be a completely different style of circuit next week. So for you, going from the Hungaroring, very tight, very technical, over to the Red Bull Ring, which is very open and very much a drafting track. What do you think the big difference you're going to take from a victory here and racing into next week is going to give you?
I think next week there will be a big group of cars in front because of what you said about the slipstream. So it will be a lottery. So I hope I'm as lucky as today.
Well, we will wish you the best of luck. One very quick question then to finish. Are you going to choose a flag? I find it very interesting that you choose to unaffiliate yourself here in iRacing with any sort of flag system.
I'm a citizen of the world, so I didn't wanted to choose any flag. I'm happy with being a person, not nationality. So I think I will still be unaffiliated. I think it's what it says.
Mr. Worldwide, Jorge Nieva, joining us then and picking up the victory overall here today. You love to see it. Second position overall was Nicola Cocchi. He stood by with Howie Burrows.
Nicola Cocchi led most of the race, but only 1 lap made the difference. Talk through your immediate reaction with us.
Hey, yeah, hi guys. I don't know what to say, to be honest. I don't know how I lost this race. I guess Jorge was just too fast for me, and this is even more impressive considering that he has a lot less practice than I had. So this tells a lot about the quality of the drivers, which is Jorge. And yeah, I knew I had track position, so I knew that I was need to focus not too much on the relatives, but just to not doing any mistakes. And in my mind, I still have didn't any mistakes because I wasn't pushing too much. But the car in that corner, I don't know what happened. It's just like left me, and once you go wide there is no way you can recover to to lose just a few tenths. You're going to lose half a second minimum. So he was very close all the race, and of course he was there to gain on my mistakes. Yeah, I'm just I'm not too disappointed on myself because it still has been a great race, and we were pretty close in on pace, I think, but maybe I was still a few tenths too slow to be on top today.
For the full length of the race, how did it quite feel holding at that one car off? Do you think it impacted you in the long run, or did you think you were cool and collected and were able to just drive in your own race for the whole length?
Well, in this track especially, you really need to focus on your tire temperature, because it's easy to push and easy to slide here, and you're going to quicker, I don't know, for 2 laps, but after that you're going to drop like a stone. So you really need to exercise your best smooth drive as you can, and this is what I did the whole weekend. And even today, I was just focusing about being smooth. Don't be distracted too much from the other from the other elements on the race. And honestly, I thought that Jorge was pushing too much. I don't know why, but I had this feeling that if I was going to do like my pace on the end of the race, I was going to have better tires, and I should be able at least to have a chance to fight him back if he was going to attack me, of course. And this didn't happen. I think he drove surely as smooth as me, because he was fast from start to finish, maybe even backwards, because I felt I was a little bit faster on the start of the race, and he was faster on the second half of the race. But once you are that close, anything can judge, can change the position of the podium for sure.
Next week at the Red Bull Ring is going to be a very unique challenge in these cars with their brakes. How do you think that race is going to treat you?
It's you need to have some luck to stay out of the troubles in the Red Bull Ring, because you're gonna have very large packs. With the toe, it's very easy to follow the guy in front, and it's going to be a disaster of tracks. That's for sure. Every time we are going to race there, we are going to prepare very, very precisely on how many incidents and how many off tracks you can borrow, because you're gonna need all of them, because that place is very advantageous. You're gonna have a big advantage if you have few off track to spend, because in few tracks, in few corners, you're going to be much faster if you use your incidents. And yeah, it's going to be, we're going to need a very big amount of luck to be able to stay crash free and to be ahead.
Well, that makes our P2 finisher here, Nicola Cocchi, and that was a great battle in itself. But there was another big one down the line, and I've got Jake on the line with Henry Maurice.
Yeah, I do here at the moment. Henry, that is a gift for you there, that P3. Arturus and Mick having a very big battle, and then they come to blows in front of you with not very long left.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit of a gift, and I was also happy to be up there on merit as well. Qualifying up there and then very much keeping pace with them. So I'm doubtful that I would have been able to pass the two of them without that help, but it was definitely a nice gift. And then in the end, it looked like they were trying to out-gentleman the other, which was, helped ease off the pressure a little bit. But I was, super happy to come home in the third. Can't believe it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful result for you. I haven't seen you before here in this series, so you're one of the more newer drivers, I would say, to jump into Grand Prix Legends. So when it comes to racing this car, what makes you choose to race this series?
So I've had iRacing for 9 years, almost 10, and it's easy for a lot of it to get stale. About a month and a half ago, IMSA Vintage was at Long Beach, which is like my favorite track, and there wasn't a whole lot else going on, so I picked that up, and then I was kind of opened the world to me to all these cool series that you guys stream with these awesome cars that don't get a whole lot of participation except for when it's organized. So I was looking at what else there is, and I found these. These were at Monza, no chicanes, was like hilarious, looked insane. So I thought, well, that's a fun week to jump in, and it went super well, and the racing was great, and so I've just been hooked since then. This is an awesome community to be in. Obviously, the broadcast is incredible. It's super cool to go back and watch the live streams. What you guys do is super amazing to keep this alive, and then the community is amazing. There's setups being shared. The etiquette is great. People are helping each other out. So this is it's a really awesome, really fresh way to use iRacing to drive such a cool, different car and be part of a community that is so proactively, helpful and participant in the stuff.
Yeah, we absolutely love to see it, and we'd love to see as many drivers as we can here. Very quickly, Red Bull Ring, good track, bad track, average track. How does it stand for you?
It's somewhere in the middle. I'm learning exactly where the limits are, right? It's not the limits of the car or the track. It's the limits of the game with the off track. So that's the common complaint. But fun layout, I think, should make for good racing these cars.
Well, we wish you the best of luck there. A podium today for Henry Maurice, who picks up the final stage of the podium here from the Hungaroring. But that will bring the curtain down as far as racing action will go here today from this wonderful Hungarian track. I want to give a massive thanks to the team who has brought this show over today, from Christian, from Howie, and of course from Dougie as well, who have been here making sure that this Genesis Extreme production has been fantastic. You can catch us, of course, in 7 days' time for the third round of Grand Prix Legends Racing. That will be on the 5th of July, the day after American Independence Day, as we get ourselves set and ready for the Red Bull Ring. It's sure to be a treat, and you don't want to miss it here with us, the only place you can catch it live and uninterrupted. There are, of course, amazing races that go on all throughout the week, and we've got more races going on right now and tomorrow as well. Of course, over on Genesis Extreme, we got some amazing racing going on with the classics right now with Alex Goldschmidt and Joe Peak. But for the moment, IMSA Vintage later on today is going to be jumping over from Mid-Ohio. Motorsport for the Classic Lotus Grand Prix Series. The Porsche's Owners Club will head to the Red Bull Ring, making it a double header going from your Monday night or your Tuesday morning over towards Saturday on July the 5th. But today was a story about pure patience, a circuit where you can't just press the button and say, oh, I will have one overtake, please. You have to go and work for every move that is made. And for Jorge Nieva, one chance, one opportunity. He needed a little less than 8 miles to go and hold on to win this race, and he did not lose himself. A great win for Jorge Nieva, and he'll look to bounce on through after that victory as we head to the Red Bull Ring.